In this video, I'm going to show you this table in Power BI to analyze your Sage 50 data. Firstly, why? It's a place to define reusable analysis periods that you may want to use throughout your Sage 50 data. For example, to analyze sales invoices or sales orders or nominal code transactions and so on. It enables you to ensure your Power BI date hierarchy, which is a wonderful function that comes automatically with Power BI. But what I've found from my own experience is that sometimes imported dates don't really work that well with Power BI, but if you generate the dates within Power BI, then that works really well. It's also a place where you can analyze different transaction types together. So you can compare sales orders and sales invoices, for example. And if you can do that, then you can also use it to mash up seemingly unrelated data sets. For example, if you wanted to clash your sales information with your Google Analytics data. So that's why you would want to do it. Now let's take a look at exactly what a dates table is. Well, it's three things. It's a set of contiguous dates, a set of dates that span the entire period that you may want to analyze your Sage 50 data in. Inherent in that dates table, you want to build relationships with your Sage 50 transactional data. All of your Sage 50 transactions occur on a date, and what you need to do is tie your dates table to the dates of those transactions. And then within the table, as I mentioned, you need to set up a set of reusable analysis periods. So for example, if you wanted to look at the period, the last 28 days, you set that up once within your dates table, and you can analyze your sales orders within the last 28 days, or your sales invoices within the last 28 days, or your purchase orders within the last 28 days, all just by reusing this same defined period. So that's what it is. What I'm going to talk about now is actually get into the meat of it and discuss how you actually do this. So that's my dates table created. Now, the next thing I want to do is create relationships between my dates table and the rest of my Sage 50 data. There are two ways to do this. I've got a relationships canvas here where I can visually see my relationships, or I can go in and manage the relationships through a more textual interface. I'll show you both ways. It doesn't matter which way you use, they're both the same. So I've gone into the modeling canvas here, and there's my dates table I've just created. I'm going to just drag that into the middle, and I'm going to zoom in just so you can see a little bit better. And just in this quick example, I'm just going to show you how I can now link this dates table to my sales invoices table, which also has a date in it for the sales invoices. So all I need to do is just drag and drop. And that's now created that relationship, a one-to-many relationship from my dates table to my sales invoices table. Now what I'll show you is the alternative way to create the relationship between my dates table and the sales orders table. It has exactly the same function, but it comes down to a user preference, which way you like to do it. I'm going to manage relationships. There's the relationship I just created between sales invoices and dates. You notice it's going from the child to the parent. Now what I want to do is create a new relationship. From sales orders, date, to dates, date. And it automatically detects the kind of relationship that I most likely want to use, and that happens to be the relationship I want to use, and I hit OK. So I can go on now and create the relationships with the other transactional tables that I have in Sage 50. But in the interest of time, what I will do is I'll switch to a sample Power BI file where I've already got this done. So here I have my Power BI file with the dates table with the relationships already built. We can have a very quick look. And of course it opens not quite in the right place for me. And here I have, for example, my relationships built with my nominal transaction details, sales invoices, purchase orders, and also sales orders. If I go back to my modeling view now. So we've got the dates table built, we've got the relationships built, and the next thing that I want to do is create analysis and set up analysis periods within my dates table. Now, again, in the interest of time, I've got a number already set up, but what I'll show you briefly is just how to create a new one. So here, for example, I've got an analysis period for the last 28 days. Now, let's say I wanted to create an analysis period for the last 30 days. I go here, new column. And I call it last 30 days. And I'm just use an if statement. If the date for say 30, so if it's before then, it's false. And if it's before today, it's true. Date. You know what? I've made a mistake there, and in the heat of the moment, I can't remember the correct syntax. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you the one I had for the last 28 days. There we go. And I can cheat, okay? I've got the last 30 days. Let's change that to 30. And here I've got an analysis period set up for the last 30 days. Now, I've got a whole series of analysis periods set up here, and I'm not going to go in this video to explain what they are. That's the subject of a video that's coming up next Tuesday on the 24th. But the next step, now we've got the dates analysis period set, the next step to take is to show you how you can do summary calculations based on that. What you'll notice is that I've got two concepts of year here. I've got this year, last year, and I've also got calendar year. The reason for this is because the Sage 50 data set that I've got here is from a company that doesn't operate on a calendar year. And I just want to show you the difference between the two. In the background, what we've done is we've analyzed the the periods information that's come up from Sage. So we've been able to interpret what this year means in terms of the company's data. So what I'm going to do now is I'll show you how to create some summary calculations based on these date analysis periods. Now what I'll use is the sales invoice details table. And the reason for this is because if I'm wanting to slice and dice by product, for example, it's at the detail level on the sales invoice where I have that information. You'll see product code there. What I've done is I've created a pre-calculated column here called sales, which takes into account whether or not this sales invoice is actually a credit note or a sales invoice, and adjusts the sign automatically. That's all it does. So if I want to create a summary calculation, it's an extremely simple thing. What I do is I use a measure, and I use my favorite formula for creating a measure, and it's the calculate SumX function, and I'll show you that now. And if you don't learn how to do anything else in terms of calculations, this is the calculation that I think is probably the most useful thing to learn. So what I want to do is I want to create a measure called for sales last calendar year. So sales last calendar year equals, now here comes my function, calculate sum X, sales invoice details table. And the expression is just simply sales. But now I want to apply a filter to it, which would be last calendar year. So I say dates, just last calendar year, and that's my summary calculation. And I can just show you that briefly. I'll create just a simple view there, and I just click on sales last calendar year, and there's the information held, displayed. So what I want to do, just for the purposes of the demo, I want to create 3 more measures just like this for this calendar year, this year, and last year. This year and last year being the financial year of the company. Simplest way to do that is cut and copy that formula and just adjust it. Sales calendar year, and I want to just change my filter to this calendar year. That measure created. And I want to do this year and last year, which represent the company financial year. Sales last year, because that's that measure created. And finally, sales this year. And here I want to do dates this year. So now I've got my measures created, which are running off my, using the analysis periods I've defined in my dates table, which are simple filters, true or false filters. And I've created 4 measures: sales last calendar year, sales this calendar year, sales last year, and sales this year. And I'll show you now just how easy it is to now build visualizations off that. So if I choose a clustered column chart, and what I'll do first is I'll run on the calendar year. So I'll use as my axis the date. This is where the inbuilt Power BI date hierarchy really comes into its own. And I wanted to look at sales this calendar year. So drag that as a value. And sales last calendar year, drag that in as a value. And there I have my, I'll just expand the full view. You can see 2016, 2017. Of course, 2017 hasn't finished yet. And automatically, because it's using those Power BI generated dates, it recognizes the date hierarchy, and I can just drill down, look at it by quarter, drill down, look at it by months, and so on. But that's nice. But the problem is my company is actually running on a calendar year from the beginning of November through to the end of October. So what I want to do is look at my sales in that period. So here I'll drag in the other measures. Now, this is where we lose the date hierarchy function that's inbuilt into Power BI, because that runs off a calendar year. So one of the things I did create in my dates table is a months, which represents the month's number within any particular fiscal year that I have for my company. So I want to drag that as my axis. Of course, I'm going to lose my dates hierarchy, but I'll get the data displayed the way I want to see it. So I'll now look at sales this year and sales last year. And here I have my sales this year compared to sales last year presented along my own company calendar year. And that's what next. If you happen to be an existing Sage 50 user, and if you take out a free trial with our Cintiq BI data feed and get connected before the 30th of November this year, what I will do is I'll send you a free Power BI template file with all those analysis periods and the dates table and the relationships already built in. You can read more on Accounting Web. There's a summary article that also talks through this topic that I wrote that's up on Accounting Web at the moment. You find the link to that at the bottom of this broadcast. And then next, actually, if you want to understand a little bit more about how I've chosen particular analysis periods and the logic I've gone through in doing that, and things that you may want to consider, then on Tuesday next week, Tuesday the 24th of October, there'll be another live YouTube stream called Setting Analysis Period.